Aliens thought humans wouldn't survive deep space until Earth's Trailblazers proved them wrong. Story overview: a 5-part science fiction epic following humanity's first deep space colonization mission, which defies alien expectations and establishes humans as a formidable spacefaring species. Part 1. The Galactic Council's Assessment. The story opens in the Galactic Council chambers on the neutral world of Kepler Station. Representatives from 12 established spacefaring civilizations gather to discuss the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel: humanity. Commander Jake Morrison and Dr. Lisa Barnes represent Earth at this first diplomatic contact. The aliens, led by the crystalline Zephyrians and the Aquatic Oceanic Collective, present their analysis of human physiology and psychology. According to their databases, humans are too fragile, too aggressive, and too individualistic to survive. The psychological and physical demands of deep space colonization. The Zephyrian ambassador, Kethvar, presents damning evidence. Humans require specific atmospheric conditions, have short lifespans compared to other species, and their history shows constant warfare. The oceanic representative, Flowsinger Nalath, adds that human minds break under isolation, referencing Earth's own studies on prolonged space missions. The Council votes unanimously to restrict human expansion beyond their solar system, offering, instead, a protected species status with limited trading rights. Jake Morrison stands before the Assembly and makes a bold declaration. Humanity will prove them wrong within one standard galactic year by establishing a successful deep space colony in the dangerous void sector, a region where 3 other species have failed catastrophically. Dr. Lisa Barnes supports this with technical data about human adaptability, but the aliens dismiss it as naive optimism. The Council accepts the challenge, setting the stage for humanity's greatest test. Part 2. Preparing the Trailblazers back on Earth, the Global Space Initiative faces enormous pressure. Director Helen Carter must assemble the perfect crew for what media calls the impossible mission. The destination is Kepler 442c, a barely habitable world in the void sector, 127 light-years from Earth. The selection process is grueling. From 50,000 volunteers, they choose 200 colonists representing humanity's best. The crew includes Captain Ryan Clark, a former Navy pilot with deep space experience; Dr. Amy Foster, a xenobiologist who studied alien failure reports; Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez, who designed revolutionary life support systems; and Dr. Kevin Nash, a psychologist specializing in extreme isolation. The ship, christened UES Pioneer, incorporates cutting-edge human technology. Unlike alien vessels that rely on perfect environmental control, the Pioneer is designed around human adaptability. It features modular habitats, redundant systems, and innovative solutions like rotating gravity sections and psychological support AI. As preparations continue, alien observers on Earth report back to the Council. The Zephyrians note human reckless modifications to proven technology. The Oceanic Collective expresses concern about human emotional instability during training exercises. These reports reinforce alien certainty that the mission will fail. Dr. Amy Foster discovers troubling details about previous alien failures in the void sector. The region's unique gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic storms, and psychological effects have claimed expeditions from the technologically superior Zephyrians, the hardy silicon-based builders, and the long-lived ethereal wanderers. The final scenes show the Pioneer's launch with billions watching on Earth, and alien observers confident they'll soon witness humanity's humbling defeat. Part 3. Into the Void. The journey to Kepler 442c takes 8 months through the treacherous void sector. Unlike alien predictions, the human crew doesn't break down. They adapt and evolve. Captain Ryan Clark implements a revolutionary command structure that rotates leadership based on expertise rather than rigid hierarchy. When electromagnetic storms damage navigation systems, Dr. Amy Foster takes command using her knowledge of similar phenomena on alien worlds. During a critical life support failure, Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez leads repair efforts while Captain Clark serves as his assistant. The crew faces the same challenges that destroyed alien expeditions, but responds differently. When isolation, madness begins affecting crew members, Dr. Kevin Nash doesn't try to eliminate the problem like previous alien psychologists. Instead, he channels human creativity and social bonding. Crew members form support groups, create art, and develop new rituals that strengthen community bonds. Navigation Officer Lisa Wright discovers that previous alien expeditions failed because they fought against the void sector's anomalies. Humans succeed by adapting their approach. They use gravitational distortions as slingshots, harvest energy from electromagnetic storms, and turn the region's dangerous properties into advantages. The breakthrough comes when communications specialist Ben Hughes establishes contact with the wreckage of a Zephyrian vessel lost 50 years earlier. The automated distress beacon reveals that the crystalline beings became trapped in rigid thinking patterns when faced with unprecedented challenges. Their advanced technology became a liability when flexibility was required. Meanwhile, on Earth, and throughout the galaxy, alien observers grow increasingly puzzled by human success. The Pioneer should have been destroyed or turned back months ago, yet it continues advancing toward its destination. Part 4. The Colony That Shouldn't Exist. Pioneer reaches Kepler 442c after surviving challenges that destroyed 3 alien expeditions. The planet is even more hostile than expected. Thin atmosphere, extreme weather, and dangerous native flora that previous alien surveys missed. The human response confounds galactic observers. Instead of attempting to terraform the world to match Earth conditions, the colonists adapt to the planet. Dr. Amy Foster leads biological adaptation protocols, using controlled exposure to gradually acclimatize humans to the thin atmosphere. Agricultural specialist Maria Lopez develops hybrid crops that thrive in alien soil conditions. Construction. Chief Tom Bradley revolutionizes colonial architecture by studying failed alien settlements. Previous expeditions built rigid structures that couldn't withstand the planet's seismic activity. Human colonists create flexible, modular buildings that move with the ground rather than fighting it. The colony faces its greatest crisis when seasonal storms threaten to destroy everything they've built. Captain Ryan Clark makes a desperate decision to embrace the planet's violence rather than hide from it. The colonists evacuate to underground caverns and use the storms to power massive energy collection systems designed by Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez. What should be a disaster becomes humanity's greatest advantage. The energy collected during the storm season powers advanced manufacturing systems, allowing the colony to become self-sufficient months ahead of schedule. Alien observers report these developments with increasing bewilderment. Galactic Council. Members begin privately questioning their assessment of human capabilities, but publicly maintain that the colony will inevitably fail when faced with truly serious challenges. The test comes when Dr. Amy Foster's team discovers that the planet's ecosystem is more complex than anyone realized. The dangerous native flora is actually a planetary immune system that attacks foreign organisms. Previous alien colonies died because they couldn't coexist with this biological network. Humans succeed where aliens failed by learning to communicate and cooperate with the planetary ecosystem rather than dominating it. Part 5. Proving Them All Wrong. One galactic year after humanity's bold declaration, the impossible has happened. New Terra colony on Kepler 442c is not just surviving but thriving, with a population that has grown to 300 through successful reproduction in alien conditions. The colony's success goes beyond mere survival. Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez has developed new technologies by combining human innovation with alien environmental challenges. Agricultural specialist Maria Lopez has created food production systems that yield 300% more than Earth-based calculations predicted. Dr. Kevin Nash's psychological adaptation programs have produced the most mentally stable deep space population in galactic history. Captain Ryan Clark leads a delegation back to the Galactic Council, bringing proof of humanity's achievement. The delegation includes colonists born on New Terra, the first generation of humans native to deep space, who demonstrate adaptations that even the colonists didn't expect. The evidence is undeniable. The human colony has achieved what no other species managed in the void sector. More importantly, they've done it using principles that contradict everything the galactic powers believed about successful space colonization. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrians admits that their species' technological superiority became a weakness when flexibility was required. Flowsinger Nalath acknowledges that human emotional instability is actually adaptive strength in unpredictable environments. The Council faces an unprecedented situation. Their fundamental assumptions about space colonization have been proven wrong by a species they considered inferior. Some members, particularly the proud Silicon Builders, resist accepting human success. Others, like the wise ethereal wanderers, recognize that humanity offers new possibilities for galactic civilization. The massive chamber stretched beyond what human eyes could easily see. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the entrance and felt his breath catch in his throat. The Galactic Council meeting hall was unlike anything on Earth. Floating platforms held representatives from 12 different alien species, each more strange than the last. Dr. Lisa Barnes walked beside him, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. She had spent months preparing for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of meeting so many alien minds at once. The air itself seemed to shimmer with different atmospheres mixing together through advanced filtration systems. "Remember what we discussed?" Jake whispered to Lisa as they approached their designated platform. "Stay calm, present the facts, and show them we're ready for this." Lisa nodded, though her hands were shaking slightly. She was one of Earth's best scientists, but she had never felt so small. The platform rose smoothly, carrying them toward the center of the chamber where all the alien representatives waited. The first being to speak was Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrians. His body looked like living crystal, shifting between blue and purple colors as he moved. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Kethvar said. "We have gathered to discuss your species' request for unrestricted travel throughout the galaxy. After careful study, we must share our findings." Jake straightened his shoulders. "We appreciate your consideration, Ambassador. Humanity is ready to take its place among the stars." A ripple of what might have been laughter passed through the chamber. Flowsinger Nalath of the Oceanic Collective spoke next. Her form flowed like water contained in an invisible shell, constantly shifting and changing. Her voice bubbled like a stream over rocks. "Your confidence is admirable, Commander Morrison," Nalath said. "However, confidence alone does not ensure survival in the depths of space." Dr. Barnes stepped forward. "If I may, Ambassador, we have extensive data on human adaptation capabilities. Our species has survived in every environment on Earth, from frozen poles to burning deserts." "Ah, yes," another voice interrupted. This came from Regent Voxtal of the Silicon Builders, whose body appeared to be made of living metal and stone. "We have studied your planetary adaptations. Impressive for a single world, but space presents challenges your species has never faced." The platform in the center of the chamber lit up with a holographic display. Jake and Lisa watched as images of humans appeared, rotating slowly to show anatomical details. The display was uncomfortably detailed, showing internal organs, bone, structure, and brain scans. "Observe," Kethvar continued. "Human bone density decreases rapidly in low gravity. Your cardiovascular system requires constant gravitational pressure to function properly. Extended time in space weakens your bodies beyond repair." Lisa cleared her throat. "We have developed countermeasures for these issues. Exercise regimens, artificial gravity systems, medical treatments that—" "Temporary solutions," Voxtal interrupted. "Our analysis shows that even with your countermeasures, humans begin to deteriorate after 6 months in space. Deep space colonization requires years of travel time." The holographic display changed to show psychological profiles. Brain scans revealed areas of human neural activity during various stress situations. Jake felt his jaw clench as he watched his species being dissected and analyzed like laboratory specimens. The psychological concerns are even more troubling, said whisper-thought Zendai of the ethereal wanderers. Her form was barely visible, like smoke given shape and consciousness. Human minds require constant social interaction. In isolation, your species exhibits dangerous behavioral changes. Dangerous how? Jake asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Violence, Zendai replied simply. When stressed and isolated, humans turn aggressive. Your own historical records show this pattern repeatedly. Confined spaces with limited resources lead to conflict among your kind. Flowsinger Naloth added, the Oceanic Collective has observed similar patterns in our own failed deep space missions. Social creatures cannot survive alone in the void between stars. Dr. Barnes pulled up data on her tablet. Our psychological studies show that humans actually perform better in crisis situations when working together. Group cooperation increases during emergencies. For short periods, yes, agreed Regent Voxtal. But deep space colonization requires years of cooperation under constant stress. No species has achieved this successfully without significant evolutionary advantages. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled in. Jake looked around at the various alien representatives. Each species had clearly overcome the challenges of deep space travel, but they seemed convinced that humanity could not do the same. Ambassador, Kethvar gestured, and the holographic display changed again. Now it showed star maps highlighting various regions of the galaxy. Some areas were marked in green, others in yellow, and a few in red. The Galactic Council has designated safe zones for developing species, Kethvar explained. Green zones offer trading opportunities and limited colonization rights. Yellow zones require supervision from established species. Red zones are forbidden to all but the most experienced spacefarers. Jake studied the map. Earth's solar system was surrounded by green zones with a few yellow areas nearby. The red zones were scattered throughout the galaxy, marking regions where even advanced species feared to travel. We propose granting humanity access to 3 green zone systems, continued Kethvar. These worlds offer suitable conditions for human colonization with minimal risk. Minimal risk, Jake repeated. You mean safe, controlled environments where we can never truly test our capabilities. Where you can survive, corrected Flowsinger. Nalath. The alternative is almost certain death in regions beyond your current abilities. Dr. Barnes spoke up. What about the failed expeditions to the Void Sector? 3 different species have attempted colonization there. If humans succeeded where others failed, would that change your assessment? A strange silence fell over the chamber. Several alien representatives exchanged glances, or what passed for glances among their various forms of communication. Regent Voxtal finally spoke. The Void Sector has claimed expeditions from our people, the Zephyrians, and the ethereal wanderers. It is a region of space where the normal laws of physics become unreliable. Gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic storms, and psychological effects that we still do not understand. 3 expeditions lost, added whisper-thought Zendai. Each more advanced than human technology. Each more experienced in deep space survival. All failed. Jake felt a spark of something dangerous growing in his chest. The same feeling he had experienced as a pilot when told something could not be done. What if we succeeded? Impossible, Kethvar said immediately. Human technology is centuries behind what those expeditions possessed. Your species lacks the mental discipline required for such challenges. But what if we did? Jake pressed. Hypothetically, if humans established a successful colony in the Void Sector, would that prove our capability for unrestricted space travel? The alien representatives conferred among themselves in languages that sounded like music, static, and ocean waves. Lisa watched nervously as the discussion continued for several minutes. Finally, Ambassador Kethvar spoke for the group. If humans could establish a stable, thriving colony in the Void Sector within 1 standard galactic year, the Council would reconsider its assessment. But you would not survive the attempt, added Flowsinger Nalath. The Void Sector destroys those who enter unprepared. Jake looked at Dr. Barnes, who gave him a slight nod. They had discussed this possibility during their preparation, though neither had expected the opportunity to arise so directly. "Then we accept the challenge," Jake announced. "Humanity will establish a colony in the void sector within 1 galactic year." The chamber erupted in sounds that might have been surprise, concern, or alien laughter. Ambassador Kethavar raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "Commander Morrison, Dr. Barnes, do you understand what you are proposing? The void sector has defeated species with thousands of years of space travel experience." "We understand," Lisa said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But we also understand that humanity has never been given the chance to prove itself. You judge us based on your own limitations." "This is not judgment," Whisper Thought Zendai said softly. "This is concern for a promising young species. We do not wish to see humanity destroyed by pride." Jake stepped forward. "Then give us the chance to prove that human pride is actually human strength. We will succeed where others have failed, and we will do it by being human, not by trying to copy what others have done." The council voted quickly. The result was unanimous. Humanity would be permitted to attempt colonization of the void sector. If successful, all restrictions on human space travel would be lifted. If they failed, as expected, humanity would accept protected species status and remain within designated safe zones. As Jake and Lisa left the chamber, they could hear the alien representatives discussing the decision in their various languages. The tone suggested they viewed the human attempt as a tragic but necessary lesson. "Think we just made the biggest mistake in human history?" Lisa asked as they walked toward their transport. Director Helen Carter stared at the wall of screens in the Global Space Initiative Command Center. Each screen showed different aspects of what the media had started calling the impossible mission. News reports, technical specifications, volunteer, applications, and alien observer feeds all competed for her attention. "Ma'am, we have another problem," said her assistant, bringing a tablet filled with concerning data. "The Zephyrian observers are questioning our ship design again. They claim our life support systems are too complex and will fail under stress." Helen rubbed her temples. 3 months had passed since Commander Morrison and Dr. Barnes returned from the Galactic Council with humanity's greatest challenge. 3 months to plan a mission that would either establish humans as a major galactic power or prove the aliens right about human limitations. "What specifically are they concerned about?" Helen asked. "They say our modular approach is inefficient. Their ships use single centralized life support systems. They think our distributed network will create too many failure points." Helen smiled, despite her stress. "They still don't understand how humans think. Get me Captain Ryan Clark on the line." Captain Ryan Clark was reviewing crew applications in his temporary office aboard the UES Pioneer. The ship hung in Earth orbit, still under construction, but already impressive enough to draw attention from both human media and alien observers. When Helen's call came through, he was studying the file of a young engineer who had submitted 17 different designs for emergency repairs. "Helen, please tell me you have good news," Ryan said as her face appeared on his screen. "The Zephyrians are worried about our life support design," Helen replied. "They think it's too complicated." Ryan laughed. "Too complicated? Have they seen their own ships? Everything depends on their central core systems. If that fails, everyone dies. Our approach means if one section fails, people can move to other sections while we fix the problem. I know that, and you know that. But they're convinced we're making a fatal mistake. They've filed a formal concern with the Galactic Council." "Let them file," Ryan said. "We're not building this ship to match alien expectations. We're building it to keep humans alive in conditions no one has survived before." In another part of the ship, Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez was explaining the HFY Pioneer's design philosophy to his team. Carlos had spent his career working on projects that others said were impossible. Oil rigs in hurricane zones, research stations in Antarctica, underwater habitats in ocean trenches. The Pioneer represented the ultimate challenge. "Listen carefully," Carlos told his engineers as they gathered in the ship's main workshop. "Every other species that went to the void sector built ships like fortresses. Heavy armor, massive shields, systems designed to resist everything the universe could throw at them. He gestured to the pioneers' blueprints displayed on the workshop's paint screen. We're building something different. This ship bends instead of breaking. When systems fail, we have backups. When backups fail, we have alternatives. When alternatives fail, we improvise. One of the younger engineers raised her hand. But sir, improvisation requires materials and tools. What happens when we run out? Carlos grinned. That's where human creativity comes in. The Zephyrians carry exact replacement parts for every system. If they don't have the right part, they're stuck. We carry raw materials and fabrication equipment. If we don't have the right part, we make it. Meanwhile, Dr. Amy Foster was dealing with her own challenges in the ship's biological research section. As the mission's xenobiologist, she was responsible for understanding why 3 different alien species had failed in the void sector. The data made for grim reading. The Zephyrian expedition had lasted 8 months before all communication ceased. Recovery missions found their ship intact but empty, with signs that the crew had simply abandoned their posts and wandered into space. The Silicon Builder expedition had lasted 6 months before their ship's automated systems sent a final message. Mental cohesion failing. Cannot maintain rational thought processes. The Ethereal Wanderer expedition was the most disturbing. They had lasted 14 months, longer than any other attempt, but their final transmission spoke of voices in the void and thoughts that are not our own. Their ship was found crashed on an asteroid, apparently piloted deliberately into the rock. Each species failed differently, Amy explained to Dr. Kevin Nash during one of their regular planning sessions, but they all failed mentally, not physically. Something about the void sector affects the mind. Kevin nodded thoughtfully. As the mission's chief psychologist, he had been studying the alien failure reports with growing interest. The common factor seems to be isolation. Each species tried to maintain their normal social structures in an abnormal environment. What do you mean? Amy asked. Zephyrians communicate through crystal resonance. In the void sector, electromagnetic interference would have disrupted their ability to maintain mental contact with each other. Silicon builders share computational processes between individuals. The same interference would have left them feeling cut off from their collective intelligence. Amy began to understand. And ethereal wanderers exist partially in higher dimensions. The space-time distortions in the void sector would have made them feel disconnected from parts of themselves. Exactly, Kevin said. Each species' strength became a weakness when they couldn't maintain their natural communication methods. But humans are different, Amy finished. We communicate in dozens of ways. Speech, writing, body language, art, music, touch. We're already adapted to finding new ways to connect with each other. The crew selection process was unlike anything Earth had ever attempted. From over 50,000 volunteers, the selection committee had to choose 200 individuals who could not only survive the journey, but establish a thriving colony in impossible conditions. Captain Ryan Clark insisted on interviewing every finalist personally. The process took weeks, but he was looking for something specific in each candidate. Not just skills or knowledge, but the kind of flexibility that would be essential when everything went wrong. Tell me about a time when all your plans failed, Ryan asked Dr. Patricia Wong, a candidate for the mission's chief medical officer position. I was working in a field hospital during the earthquake in Chile, Patricia replied. We lost power, our medical supplies were buried under rubble, and we had over 200 injured people with no way to treat them properly. What did you do? We improvised, used car batteries for power, made bandages from torn clothing, created splints from debris. The local people taught us traditional healing methods we had never learned in medical school. We saved lives using techniques that would never work in a normal hospital, but worked perfectly in that situation. Ryan made a note in her file. That was exactly the kind of thinking they would need. The crew that finally emerged from the selection process represented humanity at its most diverse and adaptable. Engineers who had worked in space, doctors who had practiced in war zones, farmers who had grown food in deserts, teachers who had worked with children from dozens of different cultures. Navigation officer Lisa Wright had spent years working on ships in the Arctic Ocean. learning to navigate through conditions where normal instruments failed. Communication specialist Ben Hughes had established radio networks in remote areas where standard equipment was useless. Agricultural specialist Maria Lopez had developed farming techniques that worked in soil contaminated by industrial pollution. Each crew member brought not just technical skills but experience adapting to impossible situations. The alien observers noted this diversity with confusion. Most species selected crew members based on technical competence alone. Humans seemed to be choosing people based on their ability to handle failure. As the Pioneer neared completion, alien observers submitted their final reports to the Galactic Council. The Zephyrian observer noted that human technology was unnecessarily complex and prone to breakdown. The Silicon Builder observer reported that human crew selection was illogical and inefficient. The Ethereal Wanderer observer simply stated that the mission was doomed by human emotional instability. Director Helen Carter read these reports with satisfaction rather than concern. The aliens were judging the mission by their own standards, not human ones. They expected the Pioneer to work like their own ships and the crew to behave like their own people. Captain Ryan Clark gathered his crew for their final briefing before departure. 200 men and women from every continent on Earth, representing dozens of professions and backgrounds, stood ready to attempt what 3 alien species had failed to accomplish. "I won't lie to you," Ryan told them. "We're flying into a region of space that has killed everyone who's tried to colonize it. Our ship uses untested technology. Our destination is a world that might not support human life. The aliens who are watching us expect us to fail, and maybe die in the attempt." Paused, looking at the faces around him. He saw determination, excitement, and yes, a little fear. But no one looked ready to quit. "But we have something those other expeditions didn't have," Ryan continued. "We have each other, and we have the one thing humans do better than any species in the galaxy. We adapt. When our technology fails, we fix it. When our plans don't work, we make new ones." The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks into the journey. Navigation Officer Lisa Wright was monitoring the ship's course when the instruments began showing impossible readings. According to the sensors, the Pioneer was simultaneously moving, forward and backward through space. "Captain Clark to the bridge," Lisa called over the intercom. Her voice remained steady, but Captain Ryan Clark could hear the tension underneath. Ryan arrived to find Lisa staring at navigation displays that made no sense. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "We've entered the outer edge of the void sector," Lisa explained. "The gravitational readings are contradicting each other. Our position sensors say we're here, but our momentum indicators say we're somewhere completely different." Ryan studied the displays. In normal space, navigation was straightforward. Point the ship toward your destination, calculate the route, and follow it. But the void sector was not normal space. The region was filled with gravitational anomalies that bent space-time in unpredictable ways. "What did the alien expeditions do when they hit this problem?" Ryan asked. Lisa pulled up historical data on her secondary screen. The Zephyrian expedition tried to fight through it. They used massive amounts of energy to maintain their planned course. The Silicon Builders attempted to calculate a perfect path through the anomalies. The Ethereal Wanderers tried to exist partially outside normal space to avoid the effects. And they all failed, Ryan noted. "So we try something different. Instead of fighting the anomalies, what if we use them?" Dr. Amy Foster joined them on the bridge, having heard the conversation over the intercom. "Use them how?" "Like sailing," Ryan said. "Sailors don't fight the wind. They use it to go where they want to go, even if it means taking a longer route." Lisa looked skeptical. "These aren't wind currents, Captain. These are distortions in space-time itself." "But the principle is the same," Ryan insisted. "We stop, trying to force our way through and start working with what we find." Over the next several days, the crew developed a new approach to navigation. Instead of following a straight line to their destination, they mapped the gravitational anomalies and plotted a course that used the distortions as shortcuts. When a gravitational well pulled them off course, they didn't fight it. They rode it like a slingshot to gain speed and change direction. The technique worked better than anyone expected. The Pioneer began moving through the void sector faster than any previous expedition. But the gravitational anomalies were only the beginning of their challenges. Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez was in the engine room when the electromagnetic storms hit. The first wave of charged particles struck the ship's shields and spread through the hull like electricity through water. Emergency lights flickered as main power fluctuated wildly. "All hands, this is the captain." Ryan's voice came over the intercom. "We're experiencing our first major electromagnetic storm. All non-essential personnel report to shielded areas immediately." Carlos ignored the order. He was essential personnel, and the engines were his responsibility. The storm was playing havoc with the ship's power systems, but he had expected this. The Pioneer's distributed power network was designed to handle exactly this type of interference. "Engineering, to bridge," Carlos called. "We're losing power in sections 4 through 7, but the backup systems are holding. Switching to emergency power for affected areas." "How long will the storm last?" Ryan asked. Carlos checked his instruments. "Unknown, Captain, but our power reserves are good for at least 48 hours. What Carlos didn't mention was that the previous alien expeditions had been crippled by similar storms. The Zephyrian ship had tried to maintain full power throughout the storm and burned out their primary systems. The Silicon builders had shut down all non-essential systems and found themselves unable to restart when the storm passed. The Pioneer's approach was different. Instead of fighting the storm or hiding from it, Carlos began experimenting with ways to harvest energy from the electromagnetic interference. By the time the storm passed, the ship's power reserves were actually higher than when it started. "Incredible," Dr. Amy Foster said as she reviewed the engineering reports. "We just turned a deadly space storm into a refueling station." But the real test came when the psychological effects began. Dr. Kevin Nash had been monitoring crew mental health since entering the void sector, and he was starting to see the patterns that had destroyed previous expeditions. The isolation was getting to everyone. Unlike the aliens who had tried this journey, humans were social creatures who needed constant interaction with others. But the void sector seemed to interfere with normal human communication in subtle ways. "I feel like I'm talking to myself," complained communications specialist Ben Hughes during one of his sessions with Dr. Nash. "Even when I'm talking to other people, it's like my words aren't reaching them properly." "Can you describe the feeling more specifically?" Kevin asked. "It's like, you know how sometimes you're talking on a phone with a bad connection? You can hear the other person, but there's a delay or their voice sounds wrong? It's like that, but with face-to-face conversations." Kevin nodded. He had been experiencing similar effects himself. The void sector was somehow interfering with normal human communication patterns. But instead of trying to maintain normal social structures like the aliens had done, Kevin decided to try something different. "Attention all crew," Kevin announced over the ship's intercom. "This is Dr. Nash. We're going to try an experiment. For the next week, we're changing how we communicate with each other." The experiment was simple but radical. Instead of trying to maintain normal conversation patterns, Kevin encouraged the crew to explore new ways of connecting with each other. Art projects, music sessions, group exercises, even simple games that required cooperation. Agricultural specialist Maria Lopez started teaching other crew members how to grow plants in the ship's gardens. The activity required no verbal communication, but brought people together in a shared task. Construction Chief Tom Bradley organized group projects to improve the ship's living spaces, again focusing on cooperation rather than conversation. The results surprised everyone. As the crew developed new ways to connect with each other, the psychological effects of the void sector began to fade. Instead of feeling isolated, people began feeling more connected than ever. "It's working," Kevin reported to Captain Clark. "By changing how we communicate, we're actually building stronger relationships than we had before entering the void sector." The breakthrough came when Ben Hughes made contact with something no one expected to find. He was monitoring long-range communications when he picked up a signal that didn't match any known source. "Captain, you need to hear this," Ben called from the communications center. Ryan joined him and listened to the signal. It was clearly artificial, but not from any human source. The pattern was too regular to be natural, but too alien to be familiar. "It's a distress beacon," Ben explained. Automated, very old, transmitting on frequencies that haven't been used for decades. Dr. Amy Foster arrived and listened to the signal. Can you trace the source? Already done, Ben replied. It's coming from the wreckage of a ship about 2 million kilometers from our current position. The crew gathered in the main meeting room to discuss the discovery. The signal was clearly from one of the previous expeditions that had failed in the void sector, but which one? The frequency pattern matches Zephyrian technology, Dr. Foster said after analyzing the signal. This is probably from their expedition that disappeared 50 years ago. Should we investigate? Asked Lisa Wright. Captain Clark considered the options. Investigating would take them off course and delay their mission. But the wreckage might contain valuable information about what had happened to the previous expeditions. We investigate, Ryan decided. If we're going to succeed where others failed, we need to understand exactly how they failed. The Pioneer changed course toward the signal. As they approached, the wreckage became visible on their sensors. It was a Zephyrian ship, but not destroyed by combat or accident. It appeared to be intact but dead, floating in space like a ghost. Life signs? Ryan asked. None, reported Dr. Foster. But the ship's automated systems are still functioning. That's what's broadcasting the distress signal. A small team suited up to board the Zephyrian vessel. Captain Clark led the team, accompanied by Dr. Foster, Chief Mendez, and Ben Hughes. The airlocks still functioned, and they entered the alien ship easily. The interior was designed for beings of living crystal, with surfaces that would have resonated with their natural frequencies. But the ship was empty. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no indication of what had happened to the crew. It's like they just left, Dr. Foster observed. Ben Hughes was examining the ship's communication systems. Captain, I'm reading the final log entries. The translation is rough, but I think I understand what happened. The log entries painted a picture of gradual breakdown. The Zephyrian crew had entered the void sector with confidence, but the electromagnetic storms had interfered with their natural ability to communicate with each other. Zephyrians shared thoughts through crystal resonance, but the storms made that impossible. The first view of Kepler 442c through the Pioneer's main viewport was not encouraging. The planet hung in space like a bruised marble, its surface covered with swirling storms and strange colored patches that shifted and moved like living things. That's our new home, Captain Ryan Clark said to the crew gathered on the observation deck. It's not pretty, but it's ours. Dr. Amy Foster was studying the planet through her scientific instruments. The atmosphere is thinner than we expected, she reported. Oxygen levels are about 60% of Earth normal. The good news is it's breathable. The bad news is everyone will feel like they're living at high altitude, agricultural specialist. Maria Lopez pointed to the strange colored patches on the planet's surface. What are those moving areas? They look almost like they're alive. That's because they are alive, Amy replied after checking her readings. The entire planet appears to be covered with some kind of biological network. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Navigation Officer Lisa Wright was monitoring the ship's approach to orbit. Captain, we're getting some unusual readings from the planet's magnetic field. It's much stronger than Earth's, and it's fluctuating in patterns that don't look natural. Ryan frowned. The mission briefings had prepared them for a difficult planet, but the reality was proving even more challenging than expected. How long until we can establish orbit? 6 hours, Lisa replied. But sir, I recommend we take several orbits to study the planet before attempting to land. Those surface storms look severe. Over the next day, the Pioneer circled Kepler 442c, while the crew studied their destination. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. The planet was indeed alive in ways no one had anticipated. The colored patches were vast biological networks that covered entire continents, responding to changes in the planet's magnetic field and weather patterns. It's like the whole planet is one enormous organism, Dr. Foster explained during the crew briefing. The biological networks appear to be connected underground. When we change our orbit, the surface patterns change in response. Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez was studying the planet's geology. The previous alien expeditions all tried to establish colonies in the same general area, he noted, pointing to locations on the planet map. They chose sites that looked geologically stable and avoided the biological networks, and they all failed, Ryan observed. What happened to them? Carlos pulled up historical data. The Zephyrian colony lasted 4 months before all communication stopped. Recovery missions found the settlement buried under what looked like natural rock slides, but the patterns were too regular to be accidental. The Silicon Builder colony lasted 6 months, Dr. Foster added. They built massive structures designed to resist any natural disaster. But something caused their buildings to literally dissolve. The recovery team found only traces of metal scattered across the landscape. The Ethereal Wanderer colony was the strangest, continued Carlos. They lasted 8 months, but their final transmission spoke of the planet itself, rejecting their presence. Their settlement was found perfectly intact but completely empty, as if the colonists had simply vanished. Ryan studied the data. So the planet itself seems to fight against colonization attempts. Every species that tried to establish a permanent presence was eventually driven away or destroyed. That's the working theory, Amy agreed. But I have another idea. What if the planet wasn't fighting the colonies? What if it was trying to communicate with them? The room fell silent. Communications specialist Ben Hughes spoke first. Communicate how? Think about it, Amy continued. Each colony was destroyed in a different way, but always after several months, long enough for the planet to study the newcomers and understand how they worked. The rock slides that buried the Zephyrian colony happened in perfect patterns. The dissolution of the Silicon Builder structures was too precise to be random. The disappearance of the Ethereal Wanderers left no trace of violence. You're suggesting the planet was responding to each species differently? Ryan asked. Exactly. It learned how each species built their colonies, then responded in ways specific to that species. The Zephyrians built rigid crystal structures, so the planet buried them. The Silicon Builders created metal compounds, so the planet dissolved them. The Ethereal Wanderers existed partially in other dimensions, so the planet made them disappear completely. Construction Chief Tom Bradley had been listening quietly. If you're right, then the planet will study us too. It will learn how humans build and live, then respond accordingly, which means we need to approach this differently than the other species did, Ryan concluded. Instead of trying to impose our will on the planet, we need to find a way to coexist with it. The landing team that descended to the planet's surface was small and carefully chosen. Ryan led the group, accompanied by Dr. Foster, Tom Bradley, Maria Lopez, and Ben Hughes. They chose a landing site away from the major biological networks, but close enough to study them. The first few days on the surface were challenging but manageable. The thin atmosphere made physical work difficult, but the crew adapted by working in shorter shifts and resting more frequently. The strong magnetic field interfered with some of their electronic equipment, but Carlos had designed the expedition gear to handle electromagnetic interference. The real test came when they began construction of the first permanent structures. Tom Bradley had studied the failures of previous colonies and designed buildings that were completely different from anything the other species had attempted. We're not building fortresses, Tom explained to his construction crew. We're building homes that can change and adapt. The human structures were modular and flexible. Instead of rigid foundations, they used adjustable supports that could move with ground shifts. Instead of permanent walls, they used panels that could be reconfigured as needed. Instead of trying to control their environment, they built structures that could adapt to environmental changes. The response was immediate and positive. The biological networks on the planet's surface, which had appeared agitated during the construction of previous alien colonies, remained calm. The strange colored patterns actually seemed to shift closer to the human settlement, as if investigating the newcomers with curiosity rather than hostility. It's working, Dr. Foster reported to Captain Clark. The planetary biological network is responding to our construction, but not aggressively. It's almost like it's interested in what we're doing. Maria Lopez made the breakthrough discovery 3 weeks after landing. She was attempting to grow earth crops in the alien soil when she noticed that certain plants were thriving beyond all expectations. "Captain, you need to see this," Maria called over the radio. "The tomatoes I planted last week are already producing fruit that should take months, not weeks." Ryan joined her in the agricultural section of the colony. The sight was incredible. Plants that should have been struggling in the alien environment were not just surviving but flourishing. Tomatoes, corn, and beans were growing at rates that defied biological possibility. "How is this happening?" Ryan asked. Maria pointed to the soil around the plants. "Look at the root systems. They're not just growing in the dirt. They're connecting with something underground." Further investigation revealed that the planet's biological network was actively helping the human crops grow. Root systems from Earth. Plants were connecting with alien biological structures, creating hybrid networks that benefited both species. "The planet is cooperating with us," Dr. Foster realized. "It's not just allowing us to live here, it's actively helping us succeed." But the greatest test was yet to come. Kepler 442c had seasonal storms that were far more severe than anything on Earth. Winds that could reach speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour, accompanied by electromagnetic disturbances that could shut down all electronic equipment. Storm season is approaching, Ben Hughes reported during a colony meeting. According to the data from previous expeditions, this is when the real challenges begin. The alien colonies had all tried to weather the storms by building stronger shelters and hiding underground. Each had been destroyed despite their preparations. Ryan decided on a radically different approach. "We're not going to hide from the storms," he announced. "We're going to use them." Carlos had been studying the planet's electromagnetic patterns and made an incredible discovery. The seasonal storms were not random weather events. They were part of the planet's biological cycle, generating enormous amounts of electrical energy that the biological networks used for some unknown purpose. "If we can tap into that energy instead of hiding from it," Carlos explained, "we could power our entire colony for months with just one storm." The colony spent weeks preparing for the approaching storm season. Instead of building bunkers, they constructed energy collection systems. Instead of sheltering underground, they built flexible structures that could move with the wind. Instead of trying to resist the planet's power, they prepared to harness it. When the first great storm arrived, the results exceeded everyone's expectations. The colony's energy collectors absorbed massive amounts of electrical power from the storm. The flexible buildings swayed with the wind but remained intact,